The Sports Page starts in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, buddy!
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 8th episode of the Sports Page for the spring semester, where we cover anything and everything UW Oshkosh athletics and sports from across the state of Wisconsin. We got a lot in store for this hour show, so let's get to it. Remember, you can tune into the Sports Page every Monday night from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on 90.3 WRST-FM, on our website at WRST.org, or on the Radio FX app by typing in 90.3 WRST, or if you want to watch virtually, you can tune in on our YouTube channel. My name is Braden Junkers, WRST Sports Director, and I'm happy to be joined by my two hosts. Over in the corner, we got Operations Manager Jacob Link, and to my left, WRST's Assistant Sports Director, Justice Sear. Guys, how are you doing? Coming off Easter, what'd you guys do plan-wise? How was it?
Yeah, I mean, we made the last-second decision to go to that doubleheader, of course, the Timber Rattlers game on Saturday. That was a lot of fun. But for Easter, just going over to K-City in Kellnersville. They have a buffet there where our family goes to, eating some chicken. They had some chicken noodle soup that I was eating quite a bit of and whatnot. So pretty light on Easter.
Yeah, I was pretty happy. I got to spend most of my Easter watching or listening to sports, put on the Brewers game, watch the D1 Women's National Championship for a little bit, got to see some of the Bucks game as well. So it was a nice little sports-filled weekend for me.
Yeah, so, I mean, for me, I just kind of hung out with the family, did the old Easter egg hunt that you do as the family tradition. And, guys, first ever year that I actually won the Easter egg hunt. I was pretty impressed, even though half of my family was caught off guard. That
Easter egg hunt.
It's a family thing I get roped into every year. But
Okay. It was the first time ever that you took first?
Yeah, I won for the first time. It was a great championship. But, I mean, yeah. So, folks, for our episode today, we're going to talk about series of the season where they are 3-0. They have not lost a series yet. We'll then talk about the Brewers minor league report with Timber Rattlers, Biloxi Shuckers, Nashville Sound, the rest of that. And then our final segment will be about the men's national championship for men's basketball tonight, which is between UConn and Michigan. Let's get right into it. First with our first segment, UW Oshkosh Athletics. And Jacob Justice, almost a week now marks that was the big bombshell of a announcement in Oshkosh men's basketball. Head coach Matt Lewis, after 8 seasons, has resigned from the program, which kind of, you could say, leaves a big gaping hole at who's going to be the next head coach. After the graduating seniors of Reed Secker, Jonah Rimflesh, Carter Thomas, Matt Imig, but still a lot of talent with that Oshkosh team. But really, it's kind of like, what does the future hold now? What are your guys' takes with Coach Matt Lewis resigning? And it was, just for the listeners and viewers, Coach Lewis resigned as his wife was virtual, as she has a position at Illinois Wesleyan. So he is basically kind of resigning to make sure that she can work at the facility rather than working virtually. But guys, who wants to start? Jacob, Justice?
Well, I guess Justice is signaling over here to me, so I'll start this topic of discussion. It's really heartbreaking, to be honest with you, Braden, as an Oshkosh. You know, I guess I can say I'll admit it, can be a fan of the team, but I also can't be as well because I'm also a media member too. But I will say I do root for them. And I think it's going to be tough for this team going forward, losing a coach that has helped them win a national championship. And that was, all the way back in 2019 when they ended up winning that title. And, Matt Lewis took over for Pat Yuckham before him. And under Pat Yuckham, they did end up, making the national championship game, lost that one, then won it the next year with Lewis. And he's really gone on and had a very successful career as a coach here at Oshkosh. 3-time WIAC regular season champion. Twice he's led the Titans to a tournament championship as well. He's been a coach of the year as well. So Matt Lewis, they're losing a big chunk of some of their success. And I really was impressed by the way that even though in 2023-24 they finished 8th in the WIAC, 3-11 record, they've been able to climb their way back up the standings. Went from 8th to now 5th this season, and I think it's disappointing that they were starting to build back up to where they were in 2019, but unfortunately now Matt Lewis is no longer with the team, and there's a lot of questions surrounding who's going to take over such a position.
Yeah, I mean, the loss of Matt Lewis is not just a loss of, coaching. It could also be style, right? The style that both Coach Lewis and assistant coach Max DeGeorge presented this year was something that was a little bit different than what you're used to, right? They're so up pace, running, like we said, hockey lines throughout the year. 15 players would come on the court every night, it felt like. And they wanted to just run and gun and play press. Does that style continue with a new hire? And also, what does this mean for Max DeGeorge's job? Because Matt Lewis hired this guy to coach with him, and where does that leave him? Because they were kind of on the basis of, I believe it was DeGeorge was on one side of the ball and Lewis was on the other. And so what do you do now? Where does that leave DeGeorge? Where does that leave the Oshkosh style of basketball that we saw from this year?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing has to be, though, is the talent. You basically are having Michael Metcalf-Grassman, who at the end of the year looked like the guy we have known and come to see as be the headliner of this Oshkosh team. After Metcalf-Grassman was coming off a torn ACL, where Jacob, you came at test, you called most of the games. He was at the top of his game before that ACL injury. You have guys like Brandon Beck, Joey LaChapelle. I mean, that's basically your big three right there. And it's really just a telling of what does that mean with the future of everybody else? Is there going to be, I'm not trying to speculate, but could there be people moving on? Could you see guys kind of staying in the program and kind of waiting to see how the tides flow? Or do you see guys kind of be like, okay, I want to change your scenery and see what other programs would have as an opportunity?
I think it's all going to depend on who they get as their next head coach. Will it be somebody like DeGeorge? I mean, he's the only coach listed on the website right now, and it'd be an easy jump for someone who's already inside the program to elevate to be that head coaching role. But at the same time, it's not like DeGeorge has a ton of experience as a head coach, and maybe they want to find somebody who, has led a team maybe even inside the WIAC. We don't know. Maybe if there's an assistant at Platteville or Whitewater or somewhere, or even Lacrosse that has had a ton of success as of late, if they want to go that route, or even, they always say it's a national search. So we could have somebody from really anywhere in the country potentially. But overall, I think for your question, Braden, I think it's going to depend on who they bring in. I think that the squad that Lewis has built and recruited, they are all about staying here at Oshkosh and supporting this program. When you talk to him about the types of people that he looks to recruit, but they still stayed around and they still contributed to the team in their own unique ways. So I think the guys that are on the squad now are still going to stick around no matter who's brought in. Of course, somebody is always going to transfer or get injured and retire or something like that. But I think the majority of the squad is going to stay here just because of, the program that Lewis has built in the past.
Yeah, I agree with Jacob.
Like I said, we're not sitting in the meetings. We have no idea. It's not like for football, we really knew who the applicants were until they actually announced them and had meetings and everything. But I think it should be interesting to see as the spring moves on and the summer moves on, who they end up bringing in for interviews.
Yeah, and another interesting thing here is it doesn't affect Oshkosh at this point anymore, but Matt Lewis going to Illinois Wesleyan, could he potentially go grab a job there on the basketball staff and continue his coaching career?
I think so. The way that he worded the resignation that came out, that we got the press release about it, it said that he still wants to be around basketball and be involved in basketball. And if you're someone like Illinois Wesleyan, I don't think you're going to turn down Matt Lewis coming in and helping out at any sort of level.
That's a slam dunk sort of even with him as an assistant, he knows how to be part of a good caliber program. And Illinois Wesleyan, men's and women's basketball, the last couple of years has been a team that has been able to compete.
Yeah, they were 26-5 this season. They were pretty darn good. So
with 2 All-Americans on that squad. So we're now going to shift. We're going to keep in UW Oshkosh athletics. Let's move over to first. Let's give a shout out to UW Oshkosh women's flag football. Scored their first touchdown on the season. I mean, still a very young program, but I mean, I feel like anytime you can, that's a victory, I feel like, with scoring a touchdown. I mean, it's almost that like building block of getting up to that kind of almost climbing up that mountain. Every time that you make history, every time like something good happens, positives, even if it's not a win in the score, a win on the record, it's a win inside the program. Jacob, what would you have to say about that?
Well, I mean, I think slowly the flag football team has shown improvement, which is the only thing you can really ask for as someone who follows the team. I think this year is just hard because it's not like a lot of these players came in here expecting to play flag football. You know what I mean? Like they haven't gone through a whole recruiting cycle yet where they're able to bring in whoever they want to. So I think everybody's learning right now. And I mean, first season, it's like everything in first season. There's been very few teams that have had a lot of success in the first 2 years that they've been in existence, especially if you look at professional sports. So I think as time goes on, this team is going to figure out some more things and be a little bit more competitive. But to at least have it be a one-score game for the majority of that one, like that's just such a big step forward in the kind of the construction of that program.
And again, it was Kiana Williams who scored the touchdown. But I mean, it's definitely it's a positive. It's more or less you can kind of like mark off that on a checklist of, okay, you get the first points, first touchdown. Now let's get the first kind of 2-touchdown game. Like move the needle towards getting a win. Like that, it's more or less you can now move on and have confidence in games you go into. Because they play Rockford on Thursday, and then they play Marion, a team they've already faced once before. I think it's just more or less add positives on. Justice, would you like to add?
I mean, I think they could beat that Rockford team, coming up in that triangular. I was going in to the bubble for some, MVP softball performances. So slow pitch softball here, the rec program, intramurals. But I'm going through the door, and all these Rockford flag football players, they're cursing at each other and yelling at each other. I thought there was going to be a fight outside there. And I was like, what's going on? I mean, this is a team that's been with each other, for how many days straight, and they just seem to hate each other. So, I got Oshkosh going forward against Rockford because it doesn't seem like Rockford's too much of a team from what I saw outside the bubble.
And I will say for me, it was awesome to be able to have that opportunity to call that game. But you can tell that team for Oshkosh, they were built together just as a sign-up sheet. And you can tell they play like a family. They play for each other. They aren't, like Justice said, like Rockford, who was practically screaming at each other because they won 14-6. I mean, it's more or less team chemistry is the biggest thing that I think this Oshkosh team has, and it's awesome to see because that's going to help more recruiting-wise. That's going to help more of building blocks of getting to that first win, getting to that first winning season. But also on top of that, it's going to take time. It's not like you can go out there and just win a championship off the bat. You're going to build. It's the building blocks. There's a reason why they call it a rebuilding process, but this is the first year of the program ever. But it's an uphill climb. And I think it's basically square one. Step one, score your first touchdown. Step two, score 2 touchdowns and have a lead in a game. But I mean, yeah, that's the best thing for this team was to be able to get that monkey off their back of scoring a touchdown. That is like the thing that everybody's waiting for. Can we score? They did that. Now here, you go and play Rockford again. Can you have the lead? Can you win against Rockford? And that's basically what we're going to have to wait and see on Thursday. But then now we can move into baseball and softball. We'll start with baseball. I mean, right now, 8 and 11, but it's more what the fun of the season is. They've split they took 3 out of 4 from UW Stevens Point on Friday and Sunday, after Mother Nature was trying to mess with the sport of baseball again, because you can tell Mother Nature loves baseball season right now. Justice, you can even attest being a coach right now at Two Rivers. I mean, isn't it stressful?
Yeah, it certainly is stressful, waking up and kind of just hoping that you're going to play for the day. We haven't gotten a single varsity game in yet, and, the season started close to a month ago already. And, it's frustrating for sure, especially when you're just trying to get out there. For high school specifically, it's our first game. We want to get out there and see what we got. But, for these softball, baseball teams, it's right in the middle of the season, and that kind of can just mess with, your routine and your schedule, especially in sports like baseball and softball, where some of these people become obsessed with their routines. At this time, I want to do my stretches, and so on and so forth. And so that can really mess you up. But I think they've done a decent job, as well as they can, to kind of weather the storm, for lack of a better term there. But it has been a struggle, for baseball so far, especially with the expectations that we came in with, I think, for this team after the run that they made last year. Despite the seniors they lost, we thought that there was enough talent here that they retained and added that they could potentially compete again for a WIAC championship or, another regional spot or something like that. And I think so far what they've showed this year, I think they're a bit short of that goal right now, sitting at 8-11, under 500. They have one player with a batting average over 300. Right? You said Braden Skenendor. That's the only guy with a batting average over 300. Him, McNamara, and Jake Schill have an OPS above 800. They're the only three players on the team. Hitting-wise, this team is just worse than they were last year. Last year, I can't go all the way back to this day last year to figure it out, but 7 players had a batting average over 300, and 8 of them had an OPS above 800 last year. It's been a really big struggle on the offensive side of the ball. They've struggled to just kind of put the ball in play at times. Their strikeout number is a little bit higher than I think that they want it to be, and they're not getting the extra bases hits as much as they were last year, 30% as opposed to 25% this year. So they got to figure it out offensively. Pitching is another concern. It seems like everybody so far from last year is worse this year. And that might just become, the weather was different this time last year than it was this year, and just trying to get into the season more. But it's been a struggle. Walters with a 5.46 ERA and 29.2 innings, and he's got 23 strikeouts versus 14 walks. Walks is the biggest part of this. All pitchers, they have 160 strikeouts to 91 walks. That is a terrible ratio that you want. You can't just be handing free passes to these guys, especially against Connolly, specifically a catcher. 25 stolen base attempts, only 5 have been caught. So they're getting extra bases, they're getting free bases, and you just can't do that when you're not hitting as well as a team.
And basically your biggest bright spot right now is Barris Bruna, who is a freshman. A 6'4" freshman left-handed pitcher who has a 4.05 ERA. And he had a great start, 8 innings, 7 strikeouts against UW-Stevens Point. But it's a freshman leading the way. You have a guy in Josh Jansen, who's a senior out of DeForest, who is basically was known as the bona fide ace of this team, and he has a 6 ERA. Connor Walters, you talked about, 5.46 ERA. And the biggest thing for this team, they are 8-11, and they're going to run into, I'm going to tell you this, they're running into a freight train that is all go, and that is UW Whitewater, who has won 14 straight games. The team that brought home the national championship last year for baseball with what you could say is the greatest run of a Division III team. They won the national championship game. I believe it was 21-5, if I'm wrong. But right now, they're ranked number 8th in the country, and that's a down year. A down year for them is them winning 14 straight games, and their first 3 losses were in February. We're in April. And after that, you're going up against a team in UW Platteville who's receiving votes. And still, they have been playing exceptionally well. Right now is basically when, if you're going to be able to try and make a run to get into the WIAC tournament and maybe you are going to have to run the table to try and even squeak into the NCAA tournament, and you're running into a gauntlet of 6 games against two teams that are Platteville. They're looking like to be a pretty good squad, but Whitewater, you're going into a freight train that if you are not playing your best baseball, if like Justice said, you walk guys and you give up a mistake, Whitewater is going to make you pay. They're going to freaking put on like 20 runs or something if you don't play well. I mean, they're that good of a team that they're the only team in the WIAC to be ranked in Division III baseball right now. And they're 8th. And they technically are saying it's a down year. So that's scary to think about with this gauntlet of a run they have.
Well, and I think, you're going to be lucky to end up at 500 the rest of the way. I mean, you're looking to at least take 1 out of the season series from Whitewater. And that's hopefully you can get 1 from them. I mean, you took 1 from Eau Claire, so maybe you can sneak 1 out, especially being at home here against Whitewater on Wednesday. But then, you're playing a top team in the conference like Platteville. Again, hoping to maybe split with them, but you're playing on the road in Platteville. Tough place to play. So you might lose all 4. You might get swept. Then luckily, you travel to River Falls. While it's a long ride, River Falls towards the bottom of the conference. I mean, I think it's going to turn out to be like the series against Stevens Point. Stevens Point was dead last in the conference. They did not look good the entire weekend except for 1 game where they were able to get the best of the Titans. So, maybe you can sneak away with 3 or maybe even the sweep against River Falls. Then, you got a 2-game series against Whitewater, the final 2 games of, the season series between the 2 squads, and it's in Whitewater. That's going to be tough to win any game down there. Then luckily you get to play Stout, not near the top of the conference, and then you end the season with River Falls, which is towards the top half of the Sorry, Lacrosse. That's my bad. I looked at the schedule, saw it said Lacrosse, and said River Falls. Not sure what happened there with my brain, but anyways, you end the season with Lacrosse, and they're towards the top of the conference. Maybe you can sneak 1 away there. But if you're able to sweep Stout and River Falls, you got to feel pretty good that you're going to end up near 500, but you can't afford to be, swept by Platteville, swept by Whitewater, and think that you're going to be able to make a run here.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough road ahead. We'll now switch over to the team that's ranked 16th in Division III, UW Oshkosh softball. And, I mean, this team's been playing exceptionally well. They have not played in a while just because of Mother Nature, again, canceling games. But Olivia Bonaire, I mean, has been exceptional. The sophomore who had only 18 at-bats last year, is batting .425 this season with 17 hits in 20 games played. An .864 OPS. I mean, that's exceptionally well from a player that really didn't get as many at-bats. She has almost the same amount of hits at bats last year. That's just impressive. And then Olivia Ullman, I mean, still playing exceptionally well, 385 average, 1 home run, 12 RBIs. I mean, this team is definitely stacked on the offensive side, and that's exactly just as you mentioned it the last time we talked about this softball team, is that they had to score runs. I feel like they finally have gotten that offense going for a pitching staff that is, again, here in Sanford. Last time we talked,
that are hitting above 300, and those same players, except for replacing Bone with Hamilton, are the only ones that are having 800 OPS. They're not putting the ball in play enough. Again, just 11.5% K rate and only 45 extra base hits. They're trying to nickel and dime their teams, which is fine, but there needs to be a power hitter. Somebody needs to emerge as a power hitter, and I thought that was going to be Sarah Hamilton coming into this year, considering what she was able to do in a little bit more of a limited sample size last year. In 4 record right now. We mentioned Kieran at 1.47 ERA, but Brianna Bougie, 1.64 ERA in 14 appearances and 47 innings pitched. And even more impressive for Bougie to me was they played in the Illinois Wesleyan tournament, and the first game she pitches 2.2 innings, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. She comes back in that championship put runs on the board, and again, run teams out of the ballpark, whether it comes with hitting extra base hits or stealing 10 bases a game, whatever it is, generate runs for this pitching staff to work. Because if they have any run support, they could run the table for the rest of the year. I mean, that's hyperbole, but they genuinely could finish this season with maybe 2 or 3 more losses.
Well, when you look at all the losses that they have had, I'm going to keep hammering home the point that they are out hit in all of those games. I mean, right now, if there's one thing they need to improve on, it's the hitting. Batting .302 as a team, that's 6th in the WIAC. And you look at the 4 losses. Lost to Springfield 3-2. Only had 2 hits as a team. They gave up 8. Lost to Colby 5-4. Gave up 6 hits. Had 5 themselves. Lost to MIT 3-0. Gave up 9 hits. Oshkosh only had 3. And then that 7-4 loss to Illinois Wesleyan, gave up 13 hits, had 8 themselves. So, and I think they're going to start to shore it up. I think that, you can't win every game in the season. There's a reason why it's baseball, and no team in the major leagues has ever gone 162-0. It's because every game something different can happen. And I think we saw some of that, and we already touched on it, but to come back and to take down Illinois Wesleyan 1-0 after you lost to them, 7-4 just a day beforehand, that's pretty impressive. And they also, at the Illinois Wesleyan tournament, they played a lot of games in a row, and that's coming right back from Florida at the spring games when, I felt like they were playing at least 2 games a day during that time frame. So to be able to do that and to still be consistent and sit at 16-4, I think it's a positive. And then you look at who's coming up on the schedule. Really, you aren't going to face your toughest test until Whitewater. They're not up to the WIAC standard. At Eau Claire, it could be a somewhat of a close game. Ranked number 23 in the nation right now are the Blue Golds. And you're unranked La Crosse, unranked River Falls, and then finally at the end of April, that's when you get to face off against what?
Conclude segment. Justice, actually, I'll give you your point quick. You can say your point before we end the segment.
Yeah, I was going to say, after Link went through the schedule, I think that Eau Claire doubleheader. I was going to say, after Link went through the schedule, I think that Eau Claire doubleheader is going to be the measuring stick of what this team is. And if they can show, if they can sweep them and, again, put up runs, hit well, run, whatever it is, then we're going to see this team make a good run. Obviously, Whitewater is the ultimate measuring stick, but I think Eau Claire is going to show us what this team is made of.
100%. It's going to be exciting to see what they can do. Finally, they get to play at home on Wednesday, so that's going to be an even better thing for this team. But so this will conclude segment number 1. We'll step aside for a quick minute break. When we come back, we're going to talk about all Brewers baseball. Again, you're listening to the Sports Page here on 90.3 WRST-FM Oshkosh and watching on YouTube.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is often laced into illicit drugs and used to make fake versions. Fentanyl is often laced into illicit drugs and used to make fake versions of prescription pills. You can't see it, taste it, or smell it. Suppliers mix fentanyl into their products because it's potent and cheap, and the dealer might not even know. Keep yourself and others safe by knowing the real deal on fentanyl. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute? When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can. But it's just as important to take time for yourself. AARP can help. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
No one in AA said to me, "Why would a nice young girl with such a great future drink so much?" They said, "Welcome, come in and sit down. We know how you feel."
Visit AA.org for more information and download the Meeting Guide app to find a meeting near you.
Asked what kind of family she wanted. She said, "A family like yours."
Learn more about adopting a teen at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
What you gonna do with all that junk inside?
And then fade it down.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the sports page here on 90.3 WRST-FM, Oshkosh. If you missed segment number 1, you can go back if you're watching on YouTube, you can go back with your cursor and re-listen to that. But it's now time for segment number 2. And it's our takeaways from the Brewers' first 3 series of this season, where they were 3-0. They took down the White Sox, Rays, and Kansas City Royals, and are sitting at
they're starting the season hot, but it's without.
And are sitting at
they're starting the season hot, but it's without arguably their best slugger on the team in Andrew Vaughn from last year, and a superstar at this point in Jackson Churio. And they have just continued to do it offensively, which has always been the concern with this team, is what they can do offensively. A little bit more of the concern was the pitching staff this year with the big moves, of course, with Freddie Peralta. But Kyle Harrison stepped real nice into that role. Brandon Woodruff looks good. He definitely lost a step on that fastball, but he's control, his break, everything has made up in spades for it. And you can't underline how much it means that they're doing. You can't underline how much it means that they're doing this without Andrew Vaughn and Jackson Churio still.
Yeah, I totally think that is something that kind of almost, like, you forget about it. You're like, man, this team is great. And then you're like, wait, we don't have 2 of our best players and we're still playing at exceptionally high level. We're sitting up there right now with the Dodgers. The Brewers, last thing I saw on MLB Network, since 2023, the Dodgers have 298 wins. The team right behind them is the Brewers at 289. That's just incredible for a team that people call a small ball team, quote unquote. But this team's exceptionally well. Yes, you play the White Sox, Rays, Royals. Still, you are putting up runs. That's the number one thing that everybody was talking about. And I think one of the biggest ones, though, is that this series against Boston, the Red Sox right now are, to start the year, are kind of like trying to get the engine rolling on their vehicle. But 2-7, and the Brewers kind of have made them look silly with their most recent trade they pulled off with sending Caleb Durbin, Andrew Monasterio, and Anthony Siegler over to the East Coast boys up in Boston for Kyle Harrison, David Hamilton, and newly big leaguer as of today, Shane Drohan. The Brewers right now, only 9 games into it, have really made this trade look really, really good for them. Kyle Harrison yesterday, 5 or 6 innings, 2 runs. Just exceptional from the Brewers pitching lab to be able to help Harrison become a good, serviceable starter. And on top of that, the Brewers just day in and day out just have really kind of built that foundation of a good squad. And another big thing, Justice, if you want to talk about this, if nobody that is a Brewers fan that is listening has heard about the Boston media talking about Caleb Durbin, it is a must listen to, I would say. Because Caleb Durbin, he's Justice, you want to... I'm going to say it right now. He's kind of a flaming dumpster fire over in Boston. A 200 OPS, batting the old 071. Justice, you want to add a little bit on how you could basically say this earlier, that the Brewers are kind of doing well in this Boston trade, even with the Red Sox trading Rafael Devers and basically not having a single piece left of that trade?
Yeah, friendly, the Brewers have fleeced the Red Sox again. They did it with Quinn Priester last year, another top prospect at one point in the Pirates system. Kyle Harrison was the same thing when he was with the Giants, and he got traded in that Devers trade, of course. And then they traded him again to the Brewers. The Brewers have just been able to unlock stuff that previously thought was lost in these guys, that they were done, kind of. It was like, well, they were prospects for how long? I think they're AAA guys now. But they've figured it out at the big leagues with the Brewers. They've developed changeups. They've developed, cutters, all these different pitches the Brewers have loved to just tweak with. has worked for Kyle Harrison, has worked for Quinn Priester. And the even more underrated part, 5, but I mean, I don't know how many games you guys have watched, but when David Hamilton he's quick. He plays an awesome third base. And when we talked about just in conversation throughout the year, throughout the offseason, who's going to play shortstop? Who's going to be third base for the Brewers? And it was like, I don't know. David Hamilton is the answer, and he has been awesome for him. Joey Ortiz has not been bad. I mean, he's been able to figure it out with the bat a little bit more than he did last year. And of course, the glove and arm it's never going to be an issue for Ortiz. They are figuring it out right now with these guys that are, people think that they're done. People think, again, that they're quadruple A guys. But right now, they're playing real well, and hopefully they can keep it up for 162.
Well, and luckily, they get to just keep on winning series, and that's the big part. If you can take 2 out of 3 against a team, that's a win. That means you're going to finish the season with at least, a .667 winning percentage, which is going to put you easily into the playoff picture. So if they can just continue to do that, and I think going up against the Red Sox squad that is last in their division so far, and especially tonight with Bale on the mound for them too, he's really struggled. And especially, they lost, 9-2 last time he was on the mound, and that was to Houston. And he gave up 5 earned runs so far this year. So I think they can easily take home the victory tonight with Brandon Woodruff on the mound for the Brewers. And then you got the Miz out there tomorrow. And last I saw, they hadn't announced the starter yet for Game 3 of that series. But either way, this is a series where you could see them come away with a sweep, potentially, the Red Sox. And then you go to, back home against Washington. Washington's another team that you could potentially see a sweep out of. And then you get to play the Blue Jays, which that one's going to be quite the series. But, overall, I think when you're able to string some wins together like they have, it's only gotten more impressive as the season's gone on because Kansas City is a pretty good team. That's a quality win right there, especially with everybody from the World Baseball Classic that, really heated up there and was able to transition nicely back to the Royals. So I've been really impressed by Christian Yelich. Just because at his age, he's done such a great job. It has 12 hits, 34 at-bats, hitting .353 with 8 RBI. And to get that much production out of him this early in the season has been amazing for his age and that his injury history as well.
Yeah, and I think the one thing, though, with Boston that you could say they have a good, talented lineup of prospects. Roman Anthony, Marcelo Mayer, Durbin, if he can get it going. Masataka Yoshida. A very good lineup, but it's not working as well. They are definitely kind of trying to get started. And Marcelo Mayer, he's batting .208, Roman Anthony, .235. But for the Brewers, first one that I think we kind of aren't talking about, Gary Sanchez. He's the power threat right now. 3 home runs, batting .308. He's the backup catcher, and he's a power threat. That's the best thing for this team. Another one, though, that we kind of have to talk about because it's been a fun kind of, you could say, add-on mascot of the year for the Brewers. Bobby Jr., the turtle. If you guys didn't see that meme, Bobby Jr. is bringing the magic into Milwaukee, so I'm excited to see that. But the guy that I am ecstatic that is playing exceptionally well right now, and I really hope that he can stay healthy. Garrett, a.k.a. G-Money Garrett Mitchell. The guy's been playing exceptionally well. He was a first-round draft pick in 2020, but he cannot stay healthy. That is the one thing that you need. When Mitchell is healthy, he is an all-star caliber player. The only thing is, he has only played 140 games in his 4 MLB seasons. Right now, we are seeing what he is capable of. Let's just hope he can stay healthy. That is the biggest thing, because if you have him staying healthy with Vaughn and Churio coming back, you have yourselves a really star-studded lineup coming up around late April, early May.
And also, too, Justice, I thought that, on the mound, Aaron Ashby has looked really well. He leads the team in wins so far at 2-0, and that's not somebody I would have expected to see that happen. He also has a 12 strikeouts in 7 innings, so he's been starting to kind of, light things up there. And I think the bullpen has, while Abner Uribe got into some trouble in yesterday's game, Still got Trevor McGill, who was able to close things out. So I think the strength of the bullpen is still there. And when you mix that in with having guys like the Miz out there, it's only going to make things better for you the longer the season goes on.
Yeah, it's just a question of if Brandon Sproat can figure it out at the major league level. That would be nice. You can find that 4 or 5 starter. If Sproat figures it out, I mean, they look awesome. Aaron Ashby, I mean, has he appeared in every single game this year? That's what it feels like.
It.
My goodness. But he has been awesome. On a left-hander, that is what we thought Aaron Ashby was when we gave him that contract that Cooper Pratt just got. It was a decision, all right, this guy, we're hoping he's going to be good. We're going to pay him before the market resets itself. And it's worked out. And, you know, as much as you want to say the past 4 years before this year and last that it didn't work out for Aaron Ashby, left-hander that throws as hard as he does and just gets strikeouts, swing and a miss stuff, he's been awesome for them. Angel Zerpa, another guy that was awesome in the WBC, like you said before with the Royals, former Royal himself. He's another great option in the bullpen outside of just the 2 closers, Uribe and McGill. And that's a conversation for another time because, I mean, I might say that Uribe might steal that spot, I think, going forward in the season. Maybe not this month or next month, but I think at some point it's going to be Abner Uribe closing.
I had thought about that all along, that eventually you're going to make that transition, but you know, he still gets himself into trouble. And that's just with every closer or relief pitcher. You're going to have bad outings, especially when you're expected to only go 1 inning. It's not like you're a starter and you can kind of rebound in the next 2 or 3 innings that you're out there. But I think McGill, to start the season, has looked better than he did to end last season, when I personally thought, you know, that was Uribe's time to shine, was at the end of last season when he basically got that job. But I guess McGill must have proven himself enough in spring training to be able to win that job back.
Yeah, I think it's more or less McGill, his time's ticking. He's 32. Like, sooner rather than later, his fastball is going to lose its zip. I think Uribe definitely has the makings to be that new closer. He definitely has that 3-pitch mix, slider, fastball, sinker, that works well. And I think it's just going to be, time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, Shane Drohan, the guy that they just called up, could be a guy that stays in the roster for the entire season because he showed some really good stuff last year. That's why the Brewers were interested in him. That's why they brought him in. I think that could be another development. They just add another guy to make up for the left-hander Koenig going down. And maybe we get into a conversation of them just having too many left-handers in the bullpen, that they don't have enough righties. But specifically for tonight, I think we did a good job with the Red Sox, although we missed the best player right now, maybe even in that division, on how he started his year. Wilyer Abreu has been phenomenal start the year. He leads the Red Sox in almost every single batting category. And outside of that, they don't have they have Wilson Contreras hitting third in the big 2026. What are we doing? Wilson Contreras, Mr. Duck his elbow into the baseball in the strike zone, is hitting third for them. They got to find a way. Roman Anthony will figure it out over time. He showed that he will be a star at some point in this league in the WBC. He's got to step into that role maybe sooner rather than later. Otherwise, I thought was a promising team in the Red Sox, if they don't get going soon here, I think they could miss the playoffs.
So we're going to transition to our final segment, segment 3. We're going to keep it here. We're going to talk a little bit about the Brewers farm system. And I mean, I was started off, what a day yesterday from Jesus Mate. I mean, 4 for 5, a home run. This kid is unreal. Like, he's him in Biloxi as an 18-year-old, and yesterday against the Rock City Trash Pandas, completely tore the cover off the ball. I mean, Mate did, but one guy that on this list, I'm trying to find, yeah, right here, sitting at number 18 in the Brewers' top 30, Blake Burke, the first baseman that was drafted 2 years ago out of Tennessee. I mean, this guy has so much power, 3 home runs in his first 3 games. Yeah, he's hitting 231, but he is unreal hitting wise. The power upside is definitely there for this Brewers farm system. And I mean, it is loaded from top to bottom. Justice, you're a big guy with the Brewers farm system. If you want to talk a little bit about some of the guys that you're excited for to see in this kind of first week of minor league baseball starting up.
I mean, I'm excited for all of them. This is the most stacked farm system in baseball. According to Baseball America, 8 Brewers are in their top 100 list. That does not include Andrew Fisher. So they could seriously have 9 out of the 100. And, you know, for your math majors there, that's close to 11% of the entire top 100. That's how good this farm system is. When you talk about this farm system, of course, Made was a guy, but Luis Pena was another guy that has to be mentioned almost in the same breath, sitting at number 23 in the MLB pipeline. 19-year-old, just like Made, he has a lot of potential with the bat, and he's going to play that probably middle infield position, probably projects more as a second baseman, especially when we look at how deep the shortstops are for the Brewers, especially with that Jet Williams trade when they got Freddie. So this is this farm system. There's too much to say about it. There's too much guys. You know, you go down the list, even past the guys that are on the top 100 list, and I'm more focused on the T-Rats because they're right down the road. Adam Shevsky is another guy who serious power from the left side part of the plate. And he could figure to be finding himself in the majors sooner rather than later. Luis Lara just joined the top 100 list for the Brewers. And he wasn't a guy that everybody was looking at yet. And he just jumped up the board. Marco Dinges slammed a baseball on Saturday. And I mean, I tell you what, I stood up right away. He hit that ball, stood up right away because that thing was no doubt 109 off the bat. He has serious power from the catcher position. We don't know what we're going to get from Jefferson Caro yet. And that is kind of how Caro performs is going to decide what the Brewers did do with Contreras, to be honest. Because the reality is, small market team, we talk about it every year. Willie Adames, Freddie Peralta, Corbin Burns, whoever it is a small market team. It's going to be tough to sign these guys. And are they going to be able to give Wilson Contreras top catcher money? Because William, excuse me.
We don't need to bring Wilson into the Brewers stuff. Too much of that jibber jabber when he was with the Cubs.
But William is, outside of Cal Raleigh, he's probably number 2 when it comes to catchers in the MLB right now. I don't know if the Brewers can afford him. So what Caro does behind the plate is going to decide a lot of what they want to do, behind the plate for the future. And who knows where Marco Dinges sits there. But he's got to figure some stuff out defensively yet before I think he's a true Brewer.
And Dinges, I mean, that kid, just as you've talked about it, he came out of Florida State, was really more of a DH with that team. But last year, he got a lot of great experience with Brandon Woodruff, making a lot of starts down in Appleton to kind of during his rehab stint. I think that's the best thing for a guy in Dinges, to be able to call pitches with a major league guy. Get that kind of start before you get to kind of far long in the system. And, I mean, out of Florida State, Marco's just great guy, great human being. He definitely has a lot of swagger, but on top of that, like, the bat is exceptionally well. But more of the pitching side I want to talk about. Ethan Dorches, the 19-year-old who's at 6'5", 215, and he has a 7-foot wingspan. Like, it's unreal. I really hope that Dorches is a great guy that kind of is that prototypical starter that can be successful here in the next. They project him in 2029. I feel like if he does well, you could see him in the next 2 years, 3 years maybe. Jacob, we'll let you chime in. You're sitting over there.
You guys took all of the players I was going to talk about, so I guess I'm stuck talking about Luis Lara, and I've been really impressed with the way he's played down at AAA Nashville, batting .345. Already has 10 hits and 29 at-bats, 10 runs scored, 2 home runs, 5 RBI. So I think, and he's done a good job of progressing as someone. Like, he started down here at the Timber Rattlers, then moved up to Biloxi last season, now up to AAA in Nashville. I think if he has another successful season, we could see him move up to the Brewers at some point.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. The power is the one thing that you don't expect from a guy in Lara's frame of 5'7", $170. But I mean, he is a Gold Glove caliber defender. That's the biggest thing that the Brewers love. Defense is the biggest thing with this team. And I think Lara could easily. I will tell you right now, I think Lara could easily be on the Brewers roster if he plays well enough to be up there around June, maybe July. One guy, though, I really have high upside on that is sitting at number 30, just cracking the top 30, Danny Dickinson, the kid that was drafted last year, but also won the national championship at LSU. And I mean, the kid, he's played well. He was on a team that won national championship, so he knows that winning culture. Playing on a Tim Rattler's team that I got a chance to do an interview with Nick Stanley for the Advanced Titan for the article I'm producing. But I mean, he talked about more or less, he wants them to basically have that culture of winning everywhere they go. If it's in Wilson with the Warbirds, aka formerly known as the Carolina Mudcats, but are now a new team, the Wilson Warbirds. But I mean, it's great to even see that in high A, the managers are expecting their players to want to win at every level, compete for championships at every level. And probably two of my favorite quotes from manager Stanley was one, he wants fans to see like they're watching the Brewers, how they play, how their aggressive base running is, how well that they're a scrappy team, that they're not out of it. And the other one that really stuck out to me, he wants them to be able, that they develop them well enough that when they get the call from Pat Murphy that they want him in the major leagues, that they can contribute right off the bat. As soon as you're in the lineup, you're going to